Good morning, everybody. Today is the 24th day of the month of Adar. It is the 15th day of the month of March. We are climbing slowly but surely to Pesach. It's less than 3 weeks now, 2 and something. And we are continuing to study the mystical purposes and reasons and explanations for the art of giving, the book of the art of giving. Last week we got very technical, Kabbalistically technical, and we will continue along those technical lines today, see what we can come up with like this. We're on page 34 and 35.
Wow, you got all those things.
Yeah.
32, 34 and 35.
Yeah, on the other side of the page.
Yeah.
Page 34.
There's a whole bunch of them in the middle. But can you pass one of these copies, please, back? No, just one.
Thank you.
What do I do behind this?
I have your back.
The Rebbe, this is a discourse.
That's what's so nice for you.
Oh, no. When someone sneezes, when someone sneezes, it is good to wish them well. But when in the middle of Torah study or prayer, just continue to learn, so that will be even a bigger blessing. It certainly will be a less of a distraction. All right. But it's a good thing to say a blessing for reasons that we will discuss at different times. Why sneezing? Why sneezing elicits blessing? Why do people say that bless you? Why? That's not going to happen. You can sneeze on that. All right. Nothing to sneeze at. The Rebbe began by describing. This is the third Rebbe of Chabad, known as the Tzemach Tzedek, because he called his compilations in the revealed part of Torah, in the halachic and Talmudic part of Torah, he called them Tzemach Tzedek. And it turns out that those two names, Tzemach and Tzedek, actually equal Menachem Mendel, which was his real name. Anyway, so the Tzemach Tzedek, or the third Rebbe of Chabad, whose name was also Menachem Mendel, he introduced, and we did this a couple of weeks ago, he introduced the concept of gematria. Gematria means when you count numbers, and the amount of numbers, the equivalent of the numbers work out to some other equivalent, and you can find the connection this way.
Wasn't now before that Rebbe started? Who came up with that?
No, I meant to introduce it to this essay. Oh, the gematria has been around forever. For as long as the Torah has been around. That's one of the methods of understanding and learning the Torah. So, he said that one of the methods of gematria is when you count single digits together with double digits together with triple digits. And he called it Ayak Becha, or Bechar, which Ayak is Aleph, Yud, and Kuf. Aleph is the first letter, that's the first single letter, and then the Yud is the first of the double letters, and then the Kuf, which equals 10, and the Kuf, which equals 100, is the beginning of the triple digit. And Bechar is the same thing except one letter further. The Bet is the second letter, and the Chat is the second of is 20, so it's the second of the double units, and the Resh is the second of triple units. And so he said that that's one of the methods of looking at numbers. You can look at numbers simply as they are. So 18 equals Chai, we all know that one. And 17 equals Tov, which means good. We all know that one. You just count the letters of the word, and then you see the amount, and anything that equals 17, oh, I got the good. Equals 18, even better, that's a life. Now it's a good life. And so on. That's how you look at the gematria. What I'm giving you is very, very simple on the surface stuff.
More simple.
Yeah, the Gematrias can just go forever, and you read certain Kabbalistic books, they don't count numbers, they give you the explanation, and they say, now look how the numbers equal, and from all sides. And then you can go on and on, it's not the place for it. Anyway, but the bottom line is that you do have a situation where you have singles, doubles, and triples digits that will work together. Last week, he brought from the Zohar, the Bible of the Kabbalah, the opening words of the 5th Torah portion, which is called Chaye Sarah, the life of Sarah. How long did Sarah live? Well, that's a simple answer. 127 years. She was 127 when she died. That's simple. But the way the Torah presents this number is very unusual. It doesn't say 127. It says 100 years and 20 years and 7 years, dividing between the 100 and the 20s and the 7, or the triples, the doubles, and the singles. The Torah puts the word year between them. 100 years, 20 years, and 7 years. Those two words, years, two times where it adds year between the digits, is to indicate that each one of them can be looked at as separate, as divided between separate.
Different stages of life.
So Rashi, in the commentary, he says that she was at the age of, each one is comparable to the other one. So the 100, she was as beautiful, she was as cleansed from sin at 100 as she would have been at 20. Because the Jewish law is, of course, that at 13 for a boy and 12 for a girl, one becomes responsible for their own actions. That's what it means to be an adult. You now become fully responsible for your actions. And in fact, the father gets up at the bar mitzvah of his son and declares, "Bless you, God, who has freed me from the punishment of being responsible for your children, for your sons." The girls don't have that many responsibilities as far as, so many different things to do. So it's not it's not a punishment to have a girl. But the boys have a lot of things that they need to do, or they ought to do, and a lot of trouble that they usually cause also. So the father gets up and makes this blessing at the Torah after his son's first aliyah. But the 13 or 12 is the beginning of the process. And that lasts for 7 or 8 years until the 20th birthday. And then things are sort of hanging. So the father, the parents still have that sort of responsibility. At the age of 20, it is total and complete and full independence. And so therefore, once you're 20, you're starting your life, and no one is to blame for this. You could say I had a bad upbringing. Okay, that was when you were upbringing. Now you'll become an adult now. Go take your own life in your own hands. Find your own career, find your own money, and find your own responsibility. Do what you need to do. And we will try to help you. Our parents will always try to help their children, be there for their children, babysit for their children, buy gifts and help out. But you are on your own, out of the house, and find your wife, find your husband, find your job, find your niche in the world, and go do something. I've done whatever I can. You can't do anything after the age of 20 for sure for your children. You can't tell them what to do. You can't lead them and guide them. You can help them, but they are on their own. They have their own minds, and they have their own talents, and they have their own things that they need to do. So Sarah was, at the age of 100, like the age of 20, innocent and righteous. And the beauty that she had throughout her life was comparable even to a young child. That doesn't mean beauty in a sense of creep you out kind of beauty, but she was a beautiful person. She was an innocent child. She was clean and of sin, and so on and so forth. So each one of these comes to teach us something. That's what Rashi says. So it teaches you the greatness of this woman that throughout her life she maintained this degree of maturity, of responsibility, of beauty, and so on and so forth. Despite the fact that she came from very, very poor background, very bad roots, which we mentioned in the Haggadah. We're not ashamed to say that we're coming from not very glorious origins. There are other religions that seem to glorify their origins. Oh, it was so peaceful, and the music and the angels were playing and the candles were burning. It was wonderful. We say in the Hadzada, hey, the history is we come from a bunch of no goodness. We come from a bunch of idol worshippers, a bunch of Terach and Laban and all kinds of swindlers and troubles and difficulties, and that's who our Zaydis and Bubbas are. That's who our grandparents are. That's where we come from. That's our origin. Because the point is, what difference does it make where you came from? It is, where are you going? Where are you heading? We're heading out of Egypt. That's where we're heading. Heading to Sinai. We're heading to the land of Israel. That's where we're going. So, Sarah didn't start off from the right type of people. Neither did Abraham. And yet, look what happened. They founded a people that are still here. Now, so what does the Zohar say about the 127? So the Kabbalistic understanding of this verse is that the 100 corresponds to very high level of blessing. And we spoke about this last week. The Talmud says that King David established that every Jew recite 100 blessings every day. 100 brachas. We say blessings in the morning when we wake up, and there's about 10 of them there. There are the blessings in the prayers. There are the blessings of the Amidah, it's 19. And then there's the blessings on food, and the after blessings on food. And if a person says the long one, the grace after meal, the benching, that's 4 blessings right there. And each time one says Amidah, it's 3 times a day. It's 19 plus 19 plus 19, it's already 57 right there. You've got most of them. You got the majority of them right there. So you'll find another 40 something blessings. And you have them. In the evening prayers and all right. If you daven 3 times a day, if you make blessings on your food, and if you do this or that and the other, it's not hard to find them. How did David know this? Because 100 people were dying every single day in a certain plague which was around his time. And the sages learned from this, that is it, and also they found places in the Torah where it seems to allude to the fact that God wants 100 blessings every day. What's the number 100? Why 100? Why is that the number? Why not 50? Why not 150? Why 100? Because 100 is the beginning of the triple digits. And the triple digits are the highest digits we can go in the Hebrew alphabet. You can go from Aleph to Tet, 1 through 9. Then you can go from 10 through 90. That's from Chaf to Tzadik. And then you have Kuf, Reish, Shin, and Taf, 100, 200, 300, and 400 respectively. And then, in some countings, if you look at it this way, the 5 letters that complete words, the five letters, that if the word ends with those letters, it ends in a different form of the letter. The Chaf and the Mem and the Nun and the Pei and the Tzadik all have final letters to them. Those final letters are an additional 5 to the 4. So you have 400, then you count another 5, then you get to 900. And it doesn't go to past thousands. You only get triple digits. You only get to 900. And once you get to 1,000, you've got to start using combinations of others. You don't actually have a letter that represents 1,000. So you see from here that there are 3 units. And 100 is the highest you can go. So he wants 100 blessings, meaning that the highest level of numbers is represented in the blessings. Because that triple digit is the most intense of the numbers. Okay? So the 100 and then the 20 and then the 7 is to divide between the triple digits and the double digit and the single digit. The first one, 100, shows that it's a very intense level because you have to make 100 blessings every day. The number 100 figures prominently in blessing, which means revelation from God. What is the blessing? That something extra comes to this world from God. 100 times represents the highest level because it's the triple digit. What's the 20? So he said the 20 are representative of the intellectual capabilities in the person. We have wisdom and we have understanding of that wisdom. Wisdom and understanding cannot be separated. Kabbalistically, the words are Rein, Rein, the law, Mispashtim. These are two friends that never become separated because you can't bring wisdom into this world without understanding. And understanding would be nothing if you didn't have the wisdom to understand. So these two have to work together. And therefore they are the 20. This is a unit of 20. It's 2. 20 is a double, is a two units, but not single because we're talking intellect. And intellect is more intense than the characteristics within the person. Characteristics are very singular. You have a love, and you have a discipline, and you have a humility. Each one of them, although they can tolerate the others, but they are very singular in the way they operate. So, in other words, if you're being very loving and very kind, you can't be cruel at the same time. So each one of them is very. If you're being very humble, you may not be very loud and determined as one of them is. So they do work together. They actually do work together because you have to have discipline in your love, and you have to have love in your discipline, and so on and so forth. They do work together, but they are single units that also tolerate the other ones. When you talk about wisdom and understanding, those two are much deeper, they're greater, they're talking intellect now, so it's a higher level than the heart. And that's why they're tens in the units of 10 and 10, equaling 20. And so they represent the intellect. So, but in final analysis, the 100 in Sarah's name, in Sarah's years, the 100 represents the higher, deeper, more intense level of godliness that comes to this world. The 20 represents the intellect, which is on a lower level than this, but that's already within the human being. And then the 7 are the 7 characteristics that are identified in Kabbalah as that each person has, which are love and discipline and compassion, harmony, endurance, humility, implementation, getting things done, and self-reflection. Getting things done when we say hello to Maritza. So that's how the Zohar looks at these 3 units. The unit of 100, the unit of 20, and the unit of 7. Each one of them represents a different level that a human being can aspire to. That which is higher and above the human being, that which is intellect, and then that which is characteristic in the heart. Okay? So these are the 3 units. The unit of 100 triple, the unit of 20 double, and the unit of 7 single, individual. Alright, so now we're on page 34. In human terms. What we just had now was just simply pure Kabbalah. Now he begins to bring it into our own sphere, into our own realm. As typical for Hasidic teachings, it doesn't talk about Kabbalah and leaves it in heaven, but talks about Kabbalah and brings it down to earth. In human terms, the 7 years refers to the 7 emotional attributes which are generally divided into Chesed and Gevurah. Chesed and Gevurah would mean kindness. Chesed is kindness. Gevurah means strength or severity, just judgment or justice. That's the other side of kindness, the complement to kindness. You can even call it discipline. Gevurah means to either withhold or to give too much. It's strength, power, might. And kindness doesn't have the connotation of might. But sometimes you want to give a mighty dose of kindness, you see. So then you could use the Gemara to push it strong. So when you have the 7 characteristics, the 7 characteristics are dominated by, on the one side, on the right side, kindness, and on the left side, on the other side, justice, severity. So on a very simple surface, a person wants to be kind, but a person knows that you have to have limitations. First of all, for the recipient. Second of all, even for the giver, you have to have a limitation. Limitation is severity, is strength. So if you're taking the kid to the store, and or you're home and the kid asks for a treat, and you ask for ice cream, then the kid really likes that ice cream and wants another ice cream. And so you're a grandparent and you can't resist, so you give another ice cream. Then the kid wants another ice cream because there's no end. Why should there be an end? So at some point you're going to say, excuse me, but no, you can't have another one. I'm so sorry. But maybe tomorrow we'll think about more ice cream. But right now, no more ice cream. Now the kid may scream and bang and shout and bang his head against the wall and whatever, and you feel to yourself, why in the world did I ever give this kid ice cream? So your kindness needs to be tempered. It needs to be disciplined. So my way of doing things when our kids were growing up was, when they asked for something more and I didn't want to give them another one, instead of me going through the fight and saying no more, I just said no problem, and I would give the tiniest speck of thought and say here's more, and then that was the end of this one. All right, here's more. No, and then after this, no more. So here it is. Enjoy it. Bye bye. So that gets rid of the most of the fights and
My
the.
grandmother would say, tomorrow. Tomorrow.
I said it tomorrow as well, but after I gave them, they asked for more. I gave them the tiniest crumb of more. So I didn't say no to them, but it was in the most smallest, minutest possibility.
They didn't learn that.
And when I gave it to them, I said, "Here's more," and then no more. So here it is. That was it. I never had to. But why? I gave you more. All right.
This is strict.
Me.
I wish I knew that.
Never too late.
They don't say a lot more, give me a lot more. They didn't respond.
On a very rare occasion, I said, "What? Can't we have a little bit more than that? I was, a little bit more? Just give another crumb." I would play right into them. I would be in complete control. That's what happens. You're in control, and that's all. So you've given them. You haven't been nasty and cruel, but you've only given them the smallest amount. And then there's no more. They can't fight this and why not more? Why did this one? I gave you more.
That's because you're just
They don't argue because I'm the dad. Because if they argue too much, I go, "You want to get something?" Then the other side of this, baby.
More.
All right. Anyway, so I always felt it would be better to avoid as many conflicts as possible, even when they were very young. Not having to have to say and explain why not and all that. Just all right. That's just my. So that, again, you have to have discipline in your kindness, and you have to have kindness in your discipline. It has to go both ways. And kindness or love and discipline are really the essence of the other characteristics as well. So let's just take humility. Humility is a sense of restriction. It's a sense of withholding. Because you're now being humble. And I'm not going to say what I wanted to say. I'm not going to be where I thought I should be because I'm humble. And endurance, which means being and staying there, is a kind of love, giving. So really, kindness and the opposite of kindness, the severity or the discipline, the might, are the two main characteristics, and the other ones fall under their category, either to the right or to the left. Okay? Now, again, in human terms, the 7 years refers to the 7 emotional attributes which are generally divided into chesed, giving, kindness, love, and gevura, which means withholding, or strength, or might, or justice. This division is also the source of differing opinions of Beit Shammai, and I'm going to stop over here, and Beit Hillel. The Mishnah, which is the origins of the Talmud, contains basically, this is what you should do, this is what you shouldn't do. That's what it says. The Talmud, which is on those Mishnahs, the Talmud that follows that in those Mishnahs, are discussions about the Mishnah. The thing with the Talmud, though, is it can sometimes go on and off completely in different directions. But it always remains under that heading of this Mishnah. So something will be discussed in the upcoming Talmud on this Mishnah. The Mishnah is just the outer section, the origin section, the foundation section of the Talmud. And the Talmud itself, the Gemara itself, comes in and gives you, why did he say this? Why did he say that? Gives you the reasoning and gives you the thoughts behind it. And then sometimes it just goes off and on, and goes on and on and on and off and off and off. Off track sometimes to a whole different stories. It gets into stories, it gets into all kinds of things. You can go on for 20 pages between each Mishnah sometimes. Now, in the Mishnah, there are, in every single chapter, and we're talking here hundreds, maybe 800-900 chapters, in every single chapter other than 1 or 2, there is some disagreement. And the biggest disagreements, the most frequent disagreements, are Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel, the school of Shammai and the school of Hillel. You will find that everywhere in the Talmud. Beit Shammai is this way and Beit Hillel is that way. Now, Beit Shammai was pretty much, I would say 95% of the time, more strict. And Beit Hillel was more lenient. The school of Shammai was this way, the school of Hillel was that way.
Did they do the candles, the lighting them all at once, and they had that to
Right, yes. That's an argument between the Shammai and Beit Hillel is, how should you light the Hanukkah menorah? Beit Shammai said you light 8 on the first night, and you light 7 on the second night, and 1 on the 8th night. And Beit Hillel says you light 1 on the first night and 8 on the last night. We discussed this in one of our previous Kabbalah Coffee books. And because Beit Hillel was more lenient, and therefore more tolerant type of style, Beit Hillel always had more sages and more rabbis that were affiliated with Hillel's side, and Shammai didn't have that many. So when it came to determining the law goes after the majority. So the way we follow the law is we always follow Hillel. And there are a handful of places where Hillel is more severe than Shammai, more strict than Shammai is. And so we always end up following Hillel, except one time there was a virus that went through the Hillel Academy, and most of the sages were missing that day, and Shammai took advantage. They passed through about 18 laws on that day. They passed through 18 laws, mostly pertaining, more or less, I would say, I think 17 or 16 of them, pertaining to laws of purity and impurity, arcane laws that don't really have any connection to what we do today, how we live our lives today. But it had a lot of clout to what they were doing in those days. So that's Shammai and Hillel. Now, the question is, we're talking about Torah law here. We're not talking about people who are having playground arguments or sitting in a bar and having discussions of is it the Yankees or the American League or the National League? I mean, these are not discussions about things that have simply nothing to do. Whatever your opinion is, just your opinion. You like the Republicans or the Democrats? You like the Yankees or the Mets? You like the American League or the National League? You white or blue? These are Torah laws and they're Torah thoughts, and they're based on Torah. So what's this all? Who cares who is more strict and who is more lenient? Why should there be this type of difference between them? Based on what is it coming from, and why is it so relevant to us to know all these arguments? So he's going to give us an understanding of where they're coming from and why indeed it's so relevant. Let's see here. This division is also the source of the differing opinions of Beit Shammai, whose souls are rooted in Gevura, strict, strong, mighty, severity, justice, and are therefore more stringent in their rulings, and Beit Hillel, whose souls are rooted in chesed, kindness, love, and are therefore more lenient in their rulings. They're more lenient in their rulings. So look at footnote number 36. See Zohar, Igeret HaKodesh, having mentioned the attributes of Chesed and Gevura, love and severity, the discourse makes a parenthetical point. Each soul is rooted in one of the divine supernal attributes. Therefore, the soul's spiritual and psychological makeup generally mirrors that of its source. That a person is mirroring that which is on this deeper, on this more spiritual level. And when you talk about spiritual people, human beings that are spiritual, then their spirit comes out even stronger. Then the soul comes out even, then the Shama comes out even stronger. So the souls of the school of Shammai were rooted in the divine attribute of Gevura, generally associated with severity and restriction. This is apparent in their halakhic rulings being of a more stringent nature. The souls of the school of Hillel, on the other hand, were rooted in the divine attribute of Chesed, associated with kindness and compassion, resulting in their more lenient ruling. So their souls came from, were rooted or came from a different persuasion. That's why you see some people whose moods are very different. Some of them are very quiet and studious, and they hardly smile. There was a guy who ran a hardware store on Kingston Avenue in Crown Heights, and we were talking once amongst friends, and they said, "This guy never smiles. Never. Have you ever seen him smile? He never smiles." I said, "I am going to make him smile." I walked into the hardware store and I bought a screwdriver, whatever it was I was buying, and I just worked very hard until he cracked the smile. And I just wanted to see him smile, and then I came back and reported and said I was successful in my attempt. But generally speaking, the person just doesn't smile. Now, there are some people who are just smiling all the time. Wherever you see them, they just seem to be smiling, cracking a joke. And other people are just standing there. Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. Oh, ha ha ha. Like they don't even, you feel like you wasted your time trying to make some light-hearted, and, there's some people who are just like that. They're very quiet. And they don't respond, they don't react that way. Why is it? Because it's their nature. Where is their nature coming from? So the nature is rooted in their soul. Our souls come from different places. And that's what makes us different and interesting and divergent. So some people you have to treat in a different way. You have to talk to them differently, and you have to treat them differently. Some people are very angry people. They're just angry. And so you tread on eggshells. What do you mean I didn't? No, I didn't mean that. I said, okay, thank you. Oh, there's steam coming out of their ears. They get very angry. Why? Because they are very angry characteristic in them. They have to deal with that. And then there are some people who just can't stop crying. Every way you say something, and they just, they tear up. Something nice, something sweet, something sad, something they're always they come from the third level, the level of compassion. They seem to, this compassion keeps them coming up. They keep on crying, and that's how it is, huh?
It's my father.
Anyway, and some people are just jovial, happy, and they're just always, and you see that you can't tell in their face there's anything wrong, there's no worries in their lives, they're just happy. Okay, next. relax, we'll go past, we'll get through it. Everyone's different. The characteristics are different. That's because the souls come from different places. And the souls have a very strong impact on the person, and on the person, how the person portrays him or herself.
What about the factor of environmental influences?
So it's rare for a person to completely change a characteristic. It's rare. It's rare. It's possible, but it's rare. So if you have a person who's very, very happy, despite the fact that that person may have had a rough childhood or difficult upbringing or whatever it might be, hard patches in life, those people still find a way to somehow be happy.
Oh, yeah.
Huh?
Like Pollyanna.
Pollyanna.
Pollyanna. Okay. That's okay. That explains that.
Is it a
It's a
character?
movie.
It's a movie.
It's a
It's a
movie.
girl who's always happy no matter what.
Started out as a book.
Yeah.
You think they'll see it,
No.
so you can relate.
Try to become happy.
She's happy.
Mr. Happy.
She's always happy.
Yeah, at the end she finds out, she walks,
Yeah.
yeah. And she finds out that she falls at the end, she falls from a tree high place and she doesn't walk and she can't walk, but at the end she does begin to walk and she thanks God and she sees that as a learning tool to help her.
All right, listen. Our next Kabbalah Coffee will be about the movies and movies.
Pollyanna.
Pollyanna. All right. It's a fantastic message, but that's what we get out of this.
She also makes everybody
All
else
right.
around.
Good. Excellent. That's what it's all about. That's fantastic. Now,
Can she have
Then
a
there are
little
people-
more? That's enough.
then there are people. Then there are people who are lazy, and they somehow get a hold of themselves, and they make something out of themselves. They somehow fight that, and they work on themselves. So you can overcome. One can overcome tendencies and ways of life, but it takes a lot of work. It takes a complete change, and that's very difficult. No, you look at people who change themselves. It's very, very difficult. You hear about somebody who was working in a warehouse, and all of a sudden he's playing football 6 months later. Because somehow, he able to. These people have to be so disciplined for the rest of their lives. People who are athletes and play sports, they have to practice every day. People who play the piano or the professionals who want to play the violin, they work so hard and they're so obsessed and focused on their thing. That's how they become the best. The training, the tens of thousands, countless hours of training and work. And so you have to have talent. You have to be able to work on that talent. No talent is raw. It has to be focused and it has to be taken to a certain individual place. So people can work on themselves, but it's hard. It's very hard to change your characteristic around. And you change your nature. So yeah, it happens. Environment sometimes can suppress a person so much that they don't even realize that they have a good characteristic, or the opposite. They have a good characteristic and they don't even realize that they have some bad stuff going on. Things have been so good in their lives that it hasn't come out. It just remains dormant, it remains hidden within the person. Generally speaking though, characteristics do come out. And for a person to change around the characteristic, it's a very tremendous focus of life. It's a training. It has to be, you have to work hard like an athlete to change something within yourself. You tell the hitters, it's spring training now. Listen, you got strength and you got hand-eye coordination, but you're striking out too much because for whatever reason, you haven't trained yourself to let go of the pitch that's too high or too low or too outside. And you keep on swinging, and these guys figured it out now, and they keep on throwing at you pitches that are too high, and you're swinging and missing. So we're going to send you to the minor leagues, and over there you're going to have a chance, you're going to have coaches, you're going to have no expectations, and things will be good, and you'll be able to work on yourself. It'll take you 6 months to a year just to correct a little flaw. Talk to a pitcher. He says, yeah, my hand went up too high by an inch. But it's really that way. And they can mess up the entire mechanics, and then he says, pitcher, with such a good year. He won 20 games last year. Can't get anybody out. That's because one little inch is over here. How long does it take to correct that? Weeks. And work, they have to work for 7, 8 hours every day, throwing this way, that way. And the coach tells them, no, you're that, and it's over and over and over again. It's a discipline. That's how it is with fixing characteristics as well. Every flaw takes a lot of work. A tremendous amount of work and discipline, focus within the characteristics. So, generally speaking, people have raw talent, and hopefully they can be focused and disciplined towards doing that, towards that goal. You're born with certain talents, but if you don't work on them, they just don't come out. When I was training myself to be able to remember the talks of the Rebbe, so thank God I had a memory, I could remember things. But this is very different. Remembering hours of talking, and it's not just remembering. Some of it is interesting, some of it is maybe technical and monotonous and whatever. And also, some of it may be very deep and your mind has to embrace and get a hold of it. So it's not just remembering. It's also how you heard it. It took a lot of time, and then how you're going to write it up. These are disciplines that took a tremendous amount of focus and work and mental exercises to be focused, to be very, very disciplined. And that comes from years of learning and studying and being tested and so on. I was not a very good learner to learn by heart. I could learn ideas by heart, but it come to word after word. I had to work on myself in that. All right, so when each soul is rooted in a certain way, what comes out is the soul. And when you're talking about holy peoples, Shammai and Hillel were not having sidewalk, side of the road discussions. They were studying and heavy into it. They were great. These were the leaders of the generation, the Jewish leaders of their time. The buck stopped with them. They were the highest of the high, Hillel and Shammai. So they were holy people, and their souls came out even stronger. One to the right, and the other one to the other side. They had the same teachers, by the way. They were study partners. They didn't hate each other. The prophet says how much they loved each other. They married into each other's families. There was no animosity. This wasn't a fight. This was a disagreement on how to adapt certain things, how to understand certain things. Why? Because it came from their soul. Top of 36, the plural form years is therefore employed alluding to this division. The Torah says, and the years of Sarah were 100 year, 20 year, and 7 years. So the term years is used at the end for the characteristics because of the mighty division between them. Intellect, when it comes to wisdom and understanding, he says they are two friends that are not apart, they don't go apart from one another. Everything works in complete tandem. When it comes to characteristics, you can have two opposites. Years. Years means plural, there's many different ways of doing it. Okay. These emotional attributes correspond to single digits, as we just mentioned, in contradistinction or in contrast to the, in English it's in contrast to the intellectual attributes, which correspond to double digits, as I mentioned before, namely the number 20. This is because the stimulation of the emotions or the characteristics is only from 1/10 of the intellect, for the intellect in its entirety does not extend to the emotions. Your heart isn't thinking. Your kindness isn't thinking. Your kindness is doing something. It's a feeling. So your intellect, when you decide that you want to give to a good cause, you want to be kind, or you want to give to your grandchild, the ice cream, because you want to be loving. That's all a giving attribute. So once you've made that decision, then the intellect is gone. It's a small part of your intellect. It's just not thinking and debating and discussing and spending a lot of time. And it's the intellect that allows you to, okay, this time I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to do it. And it's very small, very minute, a part of the intellect that gets involved with the emotions. For the intellect is in its entirety does not extend to the emotions. Only the lowest level of the intellect vests in the emotions. It becomes involved in the emotions. Only the lowest part of the intellect, because that's the part that connects the intellect to the emotions. The rest of the intellect is thinking about more important things and intellectual things, wisdom.
Yeah, but does Kabbalah come from intellect?
What was that? Kavanah.
Or from emotion?
The word kavanah means focus. Kavanah means intense focus. So we say a person prays with kavanah. Kavanah means he's not just saying the words, but he's focusing on the meaning of the words and on the deeper meaning of the words and on the ultimate connection that one has with God when one prays. That's the purpose of prayer. Kavanah also means intention, but a strong intention, the intention that a person has. So yeah, kavanah is an intellectual thing in order to stir up the emotions.
So it involves.
And so the more one thinks, the more can go to the emotion. And according to Hasidic teachings, naturally, a person, a human being's disposition is that the emotions should be governed by the mind, by the brain. Sometimes the emotions get the better of us, and we feel rotten because of bad news. Or we feel elated because of some great news. I just had a grandchild, mazel tov, and my wife just did it. And then you go to work, and the boss says, well, today we need you to finish this job, and then blah, blah, blah. And your heart is, he's so excited. And your boss says, oh, mazel tov, nice to hear. Oh, and we need to finish this, and we also need to do that. And it's like, no, your mind has to say, okay, pipe down, calm down, I'll let it out by the kiddush. Or I'll say more l'chaim, but right now, I better focus. And that's your mind. Your mind takes over the emotions and should do it at all times, is what Hasidic teachers explain. And if the mind controls our emotions, we won't do anything, we'll never do anything wrong. Because our mind knows we shouldn't do something wrong. It's just that the feelings get the better of us. Feelings get the better of us means that you allow your animalistic side to come out. Animals are feelings, there's no intellect. Wait a minute, I want that piece of bread right now. I know you have it in your mouth, but I want that, and I feel like I can get it, so I'll get it. It's all feelings. There's no justice in the animal world. And that's how it is with the animal soul, the animal tendencies that human beings have. Anyway, so intellect is, only a tenth of it goes into the emotions. That's why the emotions are single, and the intellect is 10 times more. They are redoubled. Individual emotional attributes are therefore called shana, 1 year, or a tenth of the intellect. Collectively, the intellectual faculties are called 20 years, as we mentioned before, 20 years, double, I'm sorry, they're the 10 units, right? In addition, the singular form term shana is used there because the two intellectual faculties of chokhmah and bina, or wisdom and understanding, each of which individually correspond to the number 10, are two friends who never part. As I mentioned before, wisdom and understanding have to go together. You can't have understanding if there's no wisdom to understand. And you can't have wisdom come into this world without understanding. Understanding reveals the wisdom. So this is united in an eternal bond, hence the use of a singular shana, because they are united, they are like one. And let's do footnote 37, and we'll stop right here, even though it's in the middle of the thing, because this is the end of the idea which we will repeat next week. 37. In the process of creation, Chachma may be loosely defined as a seminal, highly condensed revelation of godly life on its highest level of immanence. Chachma would be the most high, the most intense, the most great, the first of all levels of the revelation of God. That is the life force of all creation. In fact, in Tehillim it says, in the Psalms it says that God created this world with wisdom. Well, duh. Yeah, I mean, you know, you've got a world that seems to fit in, like, and running on its own course. You gotta have wisdom for that. What do you mean? I mean, wisdom means that it's the first and the highest level of revelation of God. The potential of Chokhmah is actualized and externalized in the next stage, that of Bina, so that Chokhmah may be known only through Bina. And we will take a little bit more time to go through this although we've been through it in different parts of different essays. We'll go through it again next week as we wrap this idea up of the characteristics in relation to the intellect, Chokhmah. And then the third level, which is above that as well.